Nerd alert, dork face.
I am not a loser. I just have a bad haircut.
Kind of a major dork.
Oh, nerds.
If you're into science, tech, or unique hobbies, you're listening to the right show. On Get Nerdy With It, we interview nerds talking about their passions. This is Get Nerdy With It.
Hi, welcome to Get Nerdy With It. I am your host, Jennifer Ruggiero, and today is August 15th, episode number 13. And with me tonight, my co-host, Christopher Rizzo. Hi, Christopher.
Hello, how are you doing, Jennifer?
I am doing super. How about you?
I'm doing really good, as always.
Good. Well, we have a cool guest on tonight, and we have another Chris in the house. Chris Porter from Video Solutions. He's the owner of Video Solutions, an audio-video integration company found at betterviewing.com. Hi, Chris. Welcome.
Hey, Jennifer and Christopher. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, thanks for being on. I'm excited about your work, so I think this is going to be a fun show.
Great. Well, I look forward to sharing all the ins and outs of the industry.
Good. Well, I took a look at betterviewing.com, your website, and I'm pretty impressed by your work. It's all about home theater installation, and I think it's a little bit more than that as well. But how did you get into it? How did you start this?
Well, I'll tell you, I first got interested in home theater back in college, is where the roots actually go back to. I was lucky enough when I was a student at the University of South Carolina to get a scholarship, and they gave me a lump sum of money, for tuition and room and board and books and stuff like that. And I used the tuition money for tuition, but rather than using the money that they gave me for books and room and board, I decided that it was a better decision as a 20-year-old guy to invest in a surround sound system instead. So I went out and got an AV receiver.
Your priorities are in line, yeah.
Exactly. My priorities were clearly in the right place at that point in time. So, I got a surround sound receiver and some speakers and a subwoofer. And I spent literally, hours and hours and days hooking it up and trying to hide all the wires and get everything just perfect. And in that process, I realized that, these systems today are not simple pieces of equipment. They're kind of complicated. There's lots of wires, and not just everybody can figure these things out. I mean, it took me, I'm pretty good with gadgets, and it took me, like I said, days and even almost weeks to get this thing hooked up properly.
So was it, you mean like to hide all the wires and just get it looking?
Right, because I wanted it to look pretty in addition to sounding good. I didn't want people to come in and see wires strewn all over the place. I wanted them to be hidden nicely, either inside the wall, or at that point in time, it was mainly a matter of just me tacking them around the baseboards, in order to try to hide them.
Right.
But like I said, I realized that it's not something that's simple for people who aren't geeky and nerdy. Probably the people who listen to this podcast can handle these things by themselves, but the general, a big percentage of the population, are not as tech savvy as you guys are. And so, I felt like it was almost my responsibility to help people with these things. But that wasn't the field I was going into. I was a graphic designer and a web developer throughout college, and that's actually what I did when I graduated from college. But things didn't work out with the company that I was working at, and I moved back to Columbia. I missed my family. I moved back to Columbia, and I thought, what better way to spend time with my family than to join up forces with my dad, who had been a satellite provider. He had been doing DirecTV and gone back into the days of Prime Star of doing satellite dishes, which I wasn't interested in that at all. But as high-definition TVs came out and surround sound emerged, he got very interested in that as well. And so we put our heads together and together started Video Solutions, and just to help people with the home theater issues that we know are not that simple and easy anymore.
That's true. It's not. Like you said, for maybe somebody, for nerds, yeah, it's pretty we understand how to do a lot of this stuff. But for me, for example, my family, anytime there's a new piece of equipment or anything audio, video, I am there setting it up for them. My problem is my work is a mess. It's like spaghetti everywhere. So what you do is like, I don't have no clue how to make it look nice. It's I could hire you, and I probably need you right now in my living room to fix the mess that I have there. It's Christopher Rizzo's seen it. I showed you a picture.
Yeah,
of
I've seen the pictures. That is quite scary. Mine's scary, but it's definitely not as scary as yours. Yours is like,
it's horrible.
Wow.
And I have a hole in the wall behind here that it's like that has the wires coming out of it, and it's never patched back up, and it's horrible. Everything sounds good and looks good except for cosmetically, no.
Well, it's really difficult, and and I do the best that I can in order to hide everybody's wires and try to keep everything as neat as possible. But there's a point at which you have so many wires coming out of the equipment that there's no way to get rid of some sort of clump back there. Mm-hmm. You can put as many wire ties on you as you want, but ultimately, unless you've custom cut every single cable to be the exact appropriate length, it's going to be difficult to get it, absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are certainly a lot of things you can do. If you send me some pictures, maybe I can send you some Amazon links to a couple of products that might make your life a little bit easier.
Thank you. I'll do that. I'll definitely do that. I think you'll be in shock though when you see it. It's pretty gnarly.
But I think this is one of the problems that we're dealing with in the home theater industry today is that I think people are starting to get sick of all of this equipment and wires and mess of things that they have to remember and deal with. And I think people are really looking for simpler answers to fulfilling their home entertainment needs.
Do you think we're going to see that now because now we have smart TV, so that's kind of eliminating the need for like a cable box or even cable because people are cutting the cord, and so that's one device right there you're getting rid of. And then we have like technologies like Bluetooth Low Energy. Do you think we'll ever see like a home entertainment system to where they could use this technology, or is that just? I honestly have no idea if you could power like a 7 or 9 whatever, it's like surround sound home theater, but using that type of technology, is it something that's possible? Or
yeah, I think absolutely. I think that's the direction actually that we're headed. I think that people want simpler, like I said, simpler interfaces to controlling all this stuff, and don't want all the wires as well. And I think that one way to do that, like you said, is like a powered soundbar type things or powered amplifiers within the speakers themselves that then all communicate wirelessly. One example I look at is the Sonos music system, mm-hmm. and I think that's a good thing to look at in terms of I think where we're going in an audio perspective is that even in a surround sound perspective, if you look at the Sonos system, you can take a play bar sound bar and then combine that with two of the Play 3 jukeboxes and have them all wirelessly communicate with one another and create a complete 5.1 system if you throw in one of those subwoofers too. And that system can all talk to one another wirelessly, and then you just control it all from your iPad or your tablet or your phone or whatever device that you have. So I think we're absolutely headed to a direction where we don't have cable boxes and DVD players and all these external devices that we're plugging into things. I think all the content is going to start to reside on our mobile devices and just be flung to our home entertainment systems from there.
Kind of like the Chromecast.
Exactly like the Chromecast. And exactly like, AirPlay, basically, that Apple TV does. They do them in slightly different ways, but I think the Chromecast takes the best part about Apple TV, and gives you only that. I think the genius of the Chromecast is the fact that there is no user interface. Mm-hmm. There shouldn't be a remote control for a TV. It should just automatically know when to turn on based on what content I want to send to it from my other device. I really see currently our TVs are sort of the center place of our living rooms, but that's quickly changing because our smartphones and our mobile devices are becoming the center place of our lives.
Yep.
And all of the real content is starting to reside there or shifting to there. You guys, I know it, but the regular consumer is sort of just starting to understand and use Netflix on a regular basis, but doing so is opening their eyes, I think, to the possibilities that exist. And we're just starting to see the tide shift in terms of people enjoying content on a streaming basis only. But I think we have mobile devices and smartphones to thank for it, because these are user interfaces that people know and that they love, and there's no reason our user interface on our phone or a tablet should be any different than in what it takes to control our TV, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's like the TV can just be just a glorified monitor,
Yeah.
if you will, right? Just a display.
Exactly.
And
Our new TV is basically our mobile device, our tablet computer for the most part. Or that's what my new TV is nowadays. I walk around with my iPad from room to room with a show on it. And if I feel like sitting back on the couch and relaxing, I throw it over to the TV and I enjoy it there. Or if I'm in a social circumstance and I want to show everybody in the room what I've got on my screen, then I throw it over to the TV, right? I think our TV goes away from being the center place of our room, and it just becomes an extension of our other device, and just a way of sharing content with other people who are in the same room that you're in.
Exactly. And it's a lot easier, too, in my opinion, to navigate and do things on your device than is the TV. The TV is clunky.
Exactly.
It takes a while for it to change the...
Exactly.
Between the different apps and the different interfaces on it, right? The different inputs, rather. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like you think about that the time that people spend with their TVs, most of the time, at least the average consumer, people spend with either the direct TV or the Dish Network box or the cable box, right? Mm-hmm. And this is probably the most outdated piece of equipment in your entire system. It's typically old, cheap technology with really clunky OSs. And to me, the whole idea of waiting in today's day of age, the idea of wading through a guide of hundreds and hundreds of channels that have predetermined scheduled times for when a program is going to air just seems silly when there are literally millions of options out there on demand and freely or cheaply available, at your fingertips with a decent internet connection.
Yeah, you're right.
Those guides, they irk me. Like, what I hate about it now, TV has changed so much in the last, probably 10 years or so. Like, before, it was just channel, like, 02, and it went up to maybe, like, channel 70 or something. Now it's, like, HBO's on 200 through 240. Showtime's like 3:30 to 3:50. MLB TV is like a channel 1140. So it's just like, why do they, have 1,500 channels and like 10 different spots to find the content? It's like I'm scrolling forever. And then what makes it even worse is I don't subscribe to the majority of the content that I get from Comcast. I have just like the basic stuff, and then I have HBO, then I have like the sports package, and it's all separated. But to get to it, I have to flip through all the stuff that I don't subscribe to, and it's just like blank channels, and I can never remember what channel is what. I've set up favorites, and on the iPad it's so much easier. Like the Comcast app, the Xfinity app, I can just go right to the channel. Okay, I want to watch this, or if I want to watch a movie on Netflix, I go right to it, type in what I want or the actor that I'm looking for, and I can find it. I'm not having to use the sloppy cable box interface that gives me so much useless content that I don't care about or don't subscribe to. It's awful.
I agree with you 100%, Christopher. I agree 100%, and it's just gotten too complicated and too confusing, not just for average users, but even for us geeks who enjoy this stuff, and we understand it completely well, but we know there's so much better user interfaces out there that it irks us to have to deal with the one that we're being provided.
Yeah, I think it is because it is all very It's just old technology, and this fumbling with the remote and trying to input your different things with it, and your usernames and things like that as well. It's just not
Right.
a good experience, and it definitely needs to be fixed. I think this is the way to do it. Now, I'm curious, are you seeing a lot of people that are cutting the cord, going with an HD antenna, or are
No.
people kind of still really? Wow.
Yeah, no, I would say almost none. If
kidding.
there may be one or two of my clients that have ever not had a DirecTV or cable box, basically.
Interesting.
Almost all of them still have the cable box and still rely on that the most of the time. A cable box and a DVD player is what we're putting in for people most of the times. Now, nowadays, usually the DVD player's got a wireless connection and stuff like that. And some Apple TVs, no Google TV, no Chromecast yet, but I think it's an easy add-on for people.
It definitely is. What about, I'm kind of curious what your thought is on this now. In my opinion, I think DVDs, Blu-ray, that's old technology. It's a hassle for me. It's an effort for me to stick a DVD or a Blu-ray disc into the Blu-ray player. Do you see that going away, or what's your thought on that?
I think there's always going to be a small market for it, but I think it's going to be sort of similar to the market for vinyl. Because there's going to be like audio purists who can only get the uncompressed video on the Blu-ray disc with their 7.1 or 7 point whatever channel surround sound. And there's going to be a small percentage of people who really like that and are willing to spend the money for it. But I think the majority of the population is not going to be interested in that. And that's probably going to end up making Blu-rays more expensive in the long run, because there's only going to be a sliver of people who are interested in it if they produce them at all. We'll see. I sort of think optical media has been dead for a couple of years. I haven't watched a DVD in that amount of time at least, and I tend to think I have a pretty discriminating eye, but Netflix looks pretty darn good nowadays. And even when I watch things via AirPlay from the iPad, I get a couple of hiccups sometimes just because of my router, but most of the time it looks pretty darn good too.
It does. Go ahead.
Yes, so I personally don't see a reason for it to,
For that, yeah, it's
to need the optical disc, right?
right, and with faster internet, better routers, and people getting more throughput, more bandwidth, then they're not really going to need if you're going to get that better quality. In my home, I get, it's like 1080p Netflix, in my opinion. I believe it is, especially when I'm Chromecasting it from my device over to my TV, to my Chromecast, and it's a beautiful experience. And also another thing with this is the content is better with them having their specific shows that they're rolling out. Hulu's doing the same thing now too. I've seen a few new series that are just produced just for Hulu as well, which is kind of cool. So I think people, we've been fighting it for a while. We've been wanting a la carte, right?
Right.
And we're starting to get it, in my opinion. So
Yeah, actually, no, I think right now we sort of live in one of the most exciting times in television, because we're getting all this great, sort of HBO style premium programming from people like Netflix, and now you're saying Hulu. I think Amazon's starting to do the same thing.
They are, yeah.
And it's all being delivered over the internet and the internet only. And so the tide is turning very quickly. The next 5 years are going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. But I think we all pretty much know what's coming. I mean, obviously, people like Time Warner and CBS are having, kerfuffles already, and it's only a matter of time before the contracts, I think, between people like HBO and ESPN to only provide their content via the mainstream cable and satellite providers. It's only a matter of time before those contracts come up and they realize that they can make a lot more money by charging us all, $10 a month for their different services.
What'll kill the cable companies is when the sport teams lose the blackout restrictions. So like if you, where I live at, I can't watch any Red Sox game. I live in Boston area. I can't watch any Red Sox game. So if I wanted to watch the Red Sox, I have to pay for cable to get the channel, to get the Nesson channel that has all the games, and if I have like MLB TV, that game's blacked out because it's my home team. They're like, hey,
Right.
you got to pay for cable, you got to go to the stadium to watch it. So I literally can't, not that I'm a Red Sox fan, I'm not, but I can't watch any of the games, if I was. And I think once those blackout restrictions, when these MLB, NFL, the NBA, NHL, once they lose those restrictions with or that content deal or whatever they have with the cable companies to lose those blackout things, I think that's when the cable providers like the HBOs and stuff that the channel providers that have all the content, I think that's when they can say, hey, well, we're losing so many subscriptions because now the people that are interested in sports, they can pay $100 and get every MLB game right on their iPad, on their iPhone, on their smart TV, on their desktop, wherever it is. And I think that's really, I think sports is the only thing that's holding the cable companies together, because without that, I mean, all the other content you can watch online just about.
Right.
Or like a few hours later, like if you're a fan of Breaking Bad,
Right.
Breaking Bad comes on, Sunday, 2 hours after it airs or 3 hours after it airs or whatever it is, you can buy it on iTunes or the Google Play Store or Amazon or, whoever has the content. You can get it, a few hours after it airs on the West Coast. That content's available. So you don't need the cable company if that was the only show that you wanted to watch. But with that said, I read a post, I think it was yesterday or day before that, where it was saying where a la carte doesn't work. If ESPN wanted to charge, I think it said $10 per subscriber, and you had like 10 channels, that only the 10 channels that you watch, you end up paying a lot more for it. Basically, right now, ESPN is the highest channel or highest grossing channel. That's the channel that most people want. That was the number one channel, was ESPN. Out of ABC, CBS, Fox, whatever it was, ESPN was number one, and they get I think $6 from like Comcast or Time Warner, whoever it is. They by far get the most money. Where all the other channels, like say like ABC or something, I think they got like 83 cents or it was under $1. And then I think HBO, they were up there. They got like $3 or $4 from the cable companies, where they could make more money. But, if we wanted to get all these channels, it ends up costing a lot more if we went like an a la carte route, even though it doesn't seem like it. Eventually, once you start, getting 7, 8 channels, you're paying $70, $80.
No, I think
a la carte for each of them.
I think you're probably right about that. And I think ultimately the Time Warners and the AT&Ts, these content providers, aren't going to go away because, one, we're relying on them for the most part for our internet connections as well, right? So everything's streaming, but it's streaming through the same people. Okay, so A, we're going to need more bandwidth from them, and B, there was a B. What happened?
I don't know what your B was.
It was related to Christopher's comment.
Something about sports?
Yeah. Okay, we're going to end up paying, I'm going to spend $10 a month for Netflix and $10 a month for HBO and $10 a month for ESPN and $10 a month for Hulu Plus. And, and then I'm going to add my internet, $60 to $70 a month for my internet connection. And I think that they're probably still going to, end up getting the $120 out of us every month, and we're probably going to actually get fewer options than all this scheduled nonsense that they throw up. But ultimately, I think we're probably going to be happier anyway, because it's just going to be more of what we want, less of what we don't want. We're going to at least have control over what we do and don't see.
Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, you're right. I'm trying to think right now. Actually, I did cut the cord. I cut the cord a few years ago, but I pay $12.99 or something a month for my TiVo because I do have a DVR. And then I have the $6.99 Netflix, $6.99 Hulu.
Right.
That's about it. Spotify, music.
So you're still saving money, but I'm doing the same thing. You throw in Spotify, your music services like Spotify and Google Play Music, and those little $7 to $10 a month charges can really add up.
They all add up after.
And I have so many things that I'm subscribed to that I pay for, like different services, not just TV, but especially TV. Whether it's Vimeo, I have like a Vimeo Pro account, and that's or Plus account, that's $60 a year. I have Netflix, that's I think $8 or $9, and just 500px. I just got app.net. Like I have so many little things. Like
I know they all add
You know
up.
what? They're all they trick you. Like you're like, oh, okay, well it'll bill you
nothing.
monthly and you're only paying $7. What's $7? Yeah, but when
I
I got
know.
20 things I'm subscribing to, it's it's
SoundCloud and I even have Pandora. I have both Pandora, the Pro of Pandora, and Spotify. It's,
Right.
Yeah.
And you throw in that Amazon Prime subscription.
the Amazon Prime. Thank you. Oh, I love Amazon Prime.
So, yeah, you don't want to go back to your checkbook and start looking at this stuff.
No, if you really do, it does add up, especially for folks like us.
And that's funny that you say that because that's like an SEO, like a search engine optimization. People that basically spam you, like, we can help you rank your website. That's a tactic they use. What they'll do is they'll say, hey, we'll help you every month and they'll do like $4.47 or $5.57. What they'll do is they'll put a really small amount on it because when you're looking at like your monthly statement from your credit card or your checking account, you're not going to look for the $4, $5, $6, $7 number on that's getting withdrawn. You're going to look at the ones that are like 50 or 80 or 100 and say, oh, well, I need to cut that out. So when we're paying for all these services and they are $6, $7, $8 or whatever, we don't think about it. But if we added them all up and thought about really what do we need and what do we not need, we probably could cut a few of these services that we're using.
Yeah, probably so.
Totally. Hey, I'm curious about viewing these services. So 4K TVs are all talking about this now, and I have not seen one myself yet, but I hear it's just gorgeous. Are you getting requests to install these? And
no.
Okay.
No, I haven't seen any interest from the common user in regards to this. I think most of them probably haven't even heard of it yet. And I think it's got to be at least 5 years off still. I mean, it's all about price, right? If somebody can give me a $2,000 4K TV, then sounds great. 50-inch $2,000 4K TV. That's maybe like a name brand, not like some really weird off-name brand that I've never heard of before. But until then, I can get a pretty good 50-inch 1080p display from anywhere between $1,000 to $1,300.
Right.
Why do I don't think it's worth it for most people to invest that much more money right now in 4K displays. I would love to see it happen, but I think it's down the road a good ways. You look at broadcasters just spent millions of dollars to switch everything from the old 480 resolution to 720 and 1080i. I mean, people don't even broadcast in 1080p. They broadcast in 1080i or 720p. So what TVs are even going to take advantage of this in the near future? I mean, it's going to have to come from streaming content providers, which means we need even a lot more bandwidth than we're currently getting. It just seems like right now it doesn't seem like all the pieces add up to me. It seems like sounds great for the future, but I think we're at least 5 years off still.
Yeah.
The funny thing about 1080p, 4K, 720p, et cetera, you really I just watched a video on this explaining the differences between the different resolutions of the TV. A person viewing something that's 720p or something that's 1080p, you cannot tell the difference between that unless you're sitting 3 feet from the television. So basically your arm's length. Who watches TV 3 feet from their television, especially when it's 50 inches or 48 inches? I mean, you would have a headache after 10 minutes of viewing it. So if you're sitting on your couch that's 10 feet away, your eye, your retina or whatever, it can't decipher between 720p or 1080p when you're sitting that far away from it. You have to be really close to to recognize the difference between it. Even though it might look like it when you're in Best Buy, you go up and you go, oh, that screen looks amazing, or whatever, or wherever you're shopping for your TV at. And then when you get home, it never looks the same. It's because when you're looking at it in Best Buy, you're standing right up on it, or not Best Buy, but whatever store you're in, you're standing right up on it, looking at it, and it always looks amazing like that. And then when you get home, it's never the same because of the viewing distance. And,
Right, you're absolutely right. I think it's from like more than about 7 feet or so. You can't tell a difference between 720p and 1080p on a 50-inch display. But and yet you see nothing but 1080p displays anymore. Now, one place I do think that 4K might be interesting is in projectors and ultra large screen. And it probably with the same type of people that are those audio purists that are going to want to have the Blu-ray discs that have uncompressed video are also going to want these 4K projectors so that they can have a 130 to 150 inch screen and have it ultra crisp and spectacular. And I got to say that sounds pretty cool, but I have a feeling that's going to be pretty expensive too. At least for the time
6K.
being.
They have 6K cameras now. Like it's called the Red Dragon, and this video camera actually shoots like 6K. And I mean, it's just crazy to think that someone actually, has something to watch that content on. Like, I mean, they probably had to pay what $30,000 or $40,000 for like a 6K display. I mean, it has to be astronomical as far as the price for it, or right now.
I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know if you can get a 6K display at this point in time.
Yeah,
so, and that's
Red
kind
Dragon.
of the point, right? Like,
it's I mean,
all of this stuff is interesting and awesome. I'll give it that, but it's all about economies of scale and being able to produce these things for a price that people actually pay, and then content producers being able to actually produce content for them. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's all the moving pieces need to be in place, and it's not now. It's nice that we're going in that direction, but it is interesting though. If the human eye has a challenging time deciphering between it, then what's the purpose of it? Except, like you said, maybe for projectors, but
for large screens, and there'll be video purists who say, "Oh, I can tell the difference," and but I think for the majority of people, 1080p is freaking awesome, I still think so, and especially if you get like an over-the-air uncompressed signal, HD is still really gorgeous. I mean, the fact of the matter is, though, nowadays most of what the HD we're seeing is compressed in some way, shape, or form or another, and so we're not even seeing it as good as it could be right now, just because of the limitations of bandwidth and everything else. So,
isn't it something though when you look back at some like an old analog set or an old analog signal, the difference? It's like, it's really ignorance is bliss in this case, because I remember watching a large TV, 15 years ago and just being as thrilled as can be. Oh yeah, what a great picture. And then once you switch over to HD, it's like, you just really didn't know what you were missing. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I sort of miss the days when looking at an HD TV blew me away, right? So in the first days of when you saw an HD TV, you looked at it and it's like your eyes were on fire. And now it's just normal to you, right? Because it's just what you're used to.
It's normal. Mm-hmm.
And then seeing the other stuff looks like garbage. So, in some ways, some of the delight of seeing HD has gone away because it's commonplace now.
It's almost
what's funny to me is the analog stuff. I think the screen looked better. Like now, the HD stuff, like on I have a Samsung Smart TV. It's like I watch a movie or a TV show, and everything looks like it doesn't look fake. It looks real. It looks like I'm like right there, like while they're recording it, you're capturing the acting or whatever. Like it has that real live look. To whereas the old TVs, when you watched a movie, it had like that movie feel to it, almost like the 24 frames per second look or something. And then now it's like the live, like I don't know, it was like 60 frames per second where it looks fake or whatever, and it looks funny. Like when I watch it on my TV, and I kind of miss the old one, but I'm used to it now. Now, if I watch a movie or a TV show and it doesn't look like that, I'm like, oh, this sucks or whatever. Quality is terrible. And it's just because I'm used to it.
Right.
What do you guys think about the 3D TVs? When that came out, I was like, I remember Leo Laporte was not into that either. I remember him not being into it, but I was always like, oh, that's just such a fad. No, I'm never going to get 3D TV. It's going to be gone in just 2 years. Oh, what a gimmick. And so I just still consider it a gimmick. I'm kind of curious what everyone else thinks.
Christopher, you want to go first on this?
I think it's a gimmick and it's a fad, and I don't think anybody wants to watch movies and TV shows. If they could do it in a way to where you didn't have to have the little glasses, then I think it would catch on. And I have seen where they have some TVs that you can actually kind of view the 3D without the glasses, kind of like how the Nintendo 3DS works without the glasses or whatever.
Right.
But if we have to wear the little shades or whatever to watch TV or a movie, that's never going to catch on. Nobody's going to want to bother with that. I mean, we know, what if you only have 2 pair of glasses and you have a family of 4, or one of the pairs gets broke? Then what? The person, if your family's sitting on the couch, one person can't watch the the family night. Everybody's watching movies.
Right.
I mean, no, you can't watch it. Go to your room. I mean, so I think until they
no
can
3D
fix
for you.
Yeah, no 3D. Until you can fix the aspect of having to wear glasses, I don't think it'll ever catch on for mainstream to where it's like in every household. But maybe I'm wrong.
No, I agree with you guys completely. I was really hopeful for 3D because I would love to see 3D done really well, where you didn't have to wear glasses, where you didn't have to sit in a specific spot on the couch, and where it didn't give you an immense headache after 20 minutes of viewing. But unfortunately, the way that it was implemented in this latest reincarnation, all of those things are true. And it's never going to be a success when those things are true. So I sort of hate that they didn't do a better job of finding a way to implement it before releasing it and sort of tainting it all over again. Because maybe it's gone forever. And maybe people just don't want to be that immersed in their TV, right? Maybe people want to be able to still feel like they're, laying on the couch or sitting on the couch, as opposed to actually a part of, getting hit by the train. So who knows? But definitely 3D in its current form is not catching on. But, I don't think a lot of people really bought TVs because it had 3D or didn't have 3D. A lot of the nicer TVs have 3D built into them. And so it's just another one of those gimmicky features that manufacturers throw in there ultimately. And hopefully it goes away completely.
I hope
my
it does.
Samsung TV, I have 3D. It's a 3D Samsung Smart TV, and I honestly don't even know how to turn the 3D on. I've never went into the menu and looked, and I've never used it one time, and I've had the TV for, 9 months or something.
Right.
Is it?
A while now.
Did you just get it just because that was not a selling point to you? Got the TV for its specs, not necessarily because it had 3D.
Yeah, I bought the TV, and that was just one of the features that it's Samsung, so they put so many useless features like they do on their phone. They
just like the
added
Galaxy S4, right?
No, it's like there's so many little gimmicks to my TV. I'm like,
Samsung is. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, I'll be watching a movie or Netflix, and all of a sudden this little thing will pop up. Update your TV now. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to update it now. I'm watching a movie.
No, they don't even give you a choice on many of their Blu-ray players. It just starts updating automatically. You're like, I wanted to go to Netflix and I wanted to open Netflix, but instead you decided it was more important to update all these apps at 9:00 on a Saturday night. Yeah, and no, Samsung is terrible about this, and I got to say, I think it's going to hurt Samsung in the long run. I sort of feel like Samsung. I like Samsung a lot, and I put in a lot of Samsung TVs because a lot of their TVs look the best. They're thin and they got a good price. But Samsung is starting to turn into like the next Sony, where they're trying to corner you into using Samsung this and Samsung that, both with the Galaxy S4 and with their smart TVs. I'm seeing this on a recurring basis. They're trying to layer so much crud on top of everything, and ultimately it's hurting the user experience and it's turning people off from the brand in general. And it's just, I think it's a stupid move on their part, and I wish they would stop, because I've really loved Samsung for like the past 10 years, and they've been making good products. And if they just wouldn't add all this extra software on top so that they could market it in a commercial, which is basically all they're doing.
Oh my God, you said that perfectly.
Well, it's starting to drive me crazy, and I was really wanting to buy a Samsung Galaxy S4 when I first heard about it, but after their presentation and after the software crud that they put on it, I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
Oh my God, I agree with you 100%. First of all, I have a Samsung TV and I love the TV. It doesn't have all the junk on it. It's not a smart TV. It is an old school DLP, but it's beautiful. However, and I have been a Samsung fangirl up until probably the past year. And it's when the presentation of the GS4 was just I'm still in shock over that presentation of the GS4 and of the launch presentation and all the stuff, all the extra bloatware and the software that they're putting on things, not just the phones, but like you said, the TVs too now. It's too much. It's causing the user experience to diminish. You look at this and you're like, what do I touch next? It's too much. And
Absolutely.
I'm not happy. I'm not a fangirl like I used to be at all. And it's really pushing me away.
I tell you what, with my TV, I connected to Wi-Fi when I first got it. And once you're connected, once you have wireless connectivity to it, you can go through the menu. There's no way to turn the Wi-Fi connectivity off of it through the user interface, or nowhere that I can find. So I have to actually go to my computer, open, because I have a Mac and I have the airport utility on it. So I have to actually go in there and change my Wi-Fi network name and password so that the TV can't connect to my router or whatever, because there's nowhere to turn it off. Maybe I'm just stupid and it's right there in front of me, and that's probably the case. But I've had this for almost a year, and once it's connected, there's no way to go in there and say, hey, I don't want, connectivity to it, because I honestly don't use any of the apps. Like, I have MLB TV in there and I have Netflix, but I use my Apple TV to watch that content.
You don't want to use those smart apps on there.
It's not that. It's just because, like, the baseball, I'll give you an example. I don't know what it is. I don't know why this happens, but like an MLB TV, it's very choppy to play. It's like coming through, and it's just very choppy. I don't have that choppiness with the Apple TV. When I'm watching a Giants game or Yankees game, the game plays smooth. There's no lag. What'll happen on the Samsung TV is I could be in the 6th inning, and all of a sudden there'll be like a pause, and the game will freeze up, and then it'll start playing again. But I'm back in the 2nd inning, and having to watch the game. There's no way to fast forward from the inning. I don't know why it does that with the built-in app, but so I've just completely unconnected from the Wi-Fi for it, and then it's like it'll give me a pop-up all the time. It'll say connect to the internet, connect to the internet. Gosh. Little box that'll pop up, and it'll do it at the most inconvenient time, like if I'm playing like Call of Duty on my PlayStation. This little thing's popping up, and I'm getting killed every time I small because there's stupid little box like covering the screen or whatever.
I'll tell you. I mean, I have a similar experience where just the other night I was trying to set up a friend's Blu-ray player. It was a Samsung Blu-ray, and connecting to their smart apps, to access Netflix and Hulu, and it was just the most slow connection. Yeah.
Don't buy Samsung Blu-ray players.
Oh gosh.
All right, so I've had a lot of. I mean, like I said, I loved Samsung for a long time, and I still really love their TVs. I've stopped using their Blu-ray players because of so many bugs and problems. And not only that, but the Wi-Fi cards that Samsung seems to put in both their TVs and their Blu-ray players are terrible for whatever reason. They have places where I can get a signal with any computer or tablet. These Blu-ray players don't seem to be able to get a signal at all.
Wow.
I've been really disappointed. I've had constant firmware updates on Samsung Blu-ray players that froze the machine entirely, and basically bricked the Blu-ray player. Ugh. I've been really, really disappointed in Samsung Blu-ray players and in Samsung apps in general. I think that they just don't put very good processors in these things. They're trying to sell all of these Blu-ray players for $100 and $79 nowadays, and so they're looking for every little area that they can where they can reduce costs so that they can actually make a profit on these devices. And unfortunately, they the Wi-Fi cards and things like that they find the cheapest ones that they can find, and we suffer as a result because we rely on these things to do what they're advertising that they're going to do. And a lot of times they just don't do a good job. That being said, I think that the Blu-ray players and the TVs that we're seeing coming along now are getting much better at this. The current line of Samsung TVs, this year's models, are much snappier with the internet functions and the smart TV functions than they have been in the past. A lot of them have dual-core processors, and that's helping things out a lot to make these TVs a little bit more like full-fledged computers, because in the past few years, we're heading that direction, and they're being advertised that way, but they're not very good streaming devices yet.
So would you recommend to someone to get one of the newer ones with these apps built into it, being that it is getting better, or to get some type of external device such as an Apple TV, Roku, Chromecast, something like that?
I personally still think that the external device is the way to go because it can be changed out easily, right? But if I were going to buy a TV today, the one I would buy would probably have the smart TV features in it, just because, again, sort of like the 3D, the better TVs have these features anyway.
Right.
I would strongly recommend that you try to get a wired connection to the TV rather than a wireless connection if you want to actually stream things with any sort of reliability. Or I think power line networking is a great thing that a lot of people don't utilize, that can be utilized, added for about $100. You can use power line networking to get a wired Ethernet connection to the back of your TV as well.
So power line networking, and excuse my ignorance, I think I know what that is. Would that be, for example, I have an Airport Express over here, and I plug my Airport Express, a cable into that, and then power it up that way? Is that what you're talking about? Kind of something like that?
Yeah. I mean, basically, it just sends the Ethernet signal over your power line. Airport Express doesn't do that exactly, but basically, so like, my router's in an office somewhere, and my home entertainment system is in the living room, and it wasn't wired with Ethernet, and maybe we have multiple floors, and there's really no way to get a wire there. So, basically you just plug in one end of the power line networking kit into an outlet in the office, the other end into an outlet near your home theater, and, connect Cat5 between the router and one of them, and then connect Cat5 between, the device you want to get internet, in this case, the back of your TV. And you've got, you've got internet sent right over your power lines, and it's capable. You have to look when you buy the different kits. Some of them do like 150 megabits per second. Some of them do 500 megabits per second. And, obviously it's a little bit more expensive for the nicer ones. So if you want to do any sort of local streaming or something like that, I would definitely get the more expensive one. And obviously it doesn't do the gigabit networking that our routers can do. But in most cases, people don't have 500 megabit per second cable, connections to their house. Good
point. So, yeah, that's a good idea. I actually did install something like that with my Slingbox, because the Slingbox that I had did not have Wi-Fi built into it, so I needed a direct line in. And I was running into issues with the entire thing. And then it's just both the Slingbox and the power line device that came with it. I forgot what it was. Are sitting in my garage in a box right now. Right.
So that's Slingbox's implementation of Powerline networking, I believe, but specifically designed to work with Slingbox and sort of streamlined for that.
That was it. You're right. Yeah, that was exactly what I had. Yeah.
Right. It's the same thing, but it works great, and in my experience, at least, it works really well.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I might have to give that a shot then for all my. Because my entire TV, I must have at least 5 or 6, maybe even more devices plugged into it,
right?
That are using Wi-Fi.
That are all wireless. So what you want to do is you want to get one of the ones. And I used to really love the Western Digital one, but the Western Digital one a year ago was $70, and now it's $125 for some reason. So I don't know if maybe it's just been discontinued, and so there's low supply. I used to really love the Western Digital one, but the one that you want to get one of the ones that's a hub, basically. So there's a lot of them out there that only have a single Ethernet port on them, but there's some of them out there that have multiple, on the receiver end, have multiple Ethernet ports, so like 4 or 5 of them. I think 4 usually. So you want to get one of the ones that has the 4, so that you can hook them up to all your different devices as opposed to just one, and then having to get like a switch or something else in addition.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that definitely.
It works great. And I actually, do this at a lot of people's homes, because a lot of times there's not a way to get a Ethernet wire there, and Wi-Fi just isn't good enough to do the trick.
I know it's not. So, yeah, good tip. Very good.
I used to have one of those little devices for my DirecTV. Where I lived at, there was no way. The townhouse that I had like a 4th bedroom that was really like an office or whatever, but there was no cable outlet to it. So I'd plug in, we'd have to, I don't remember exactly what it was. RCA made it though, but basically worked the same way. You plug it in close to like one of the receivers, and then the other receiver, you would plug that into the wall, and then had some little, I want to say it was like a phone jack or something that come out of the one, and this is 15 years ago, maybe. So it's been quite a while. So I'm sure
Right.
the technology has changed a little bit since then, but it worked. But
It's amazing what you can kind of data you can send over an electrical outlet.
yeah, that's
It is amazing. It
Right now,
is.
the only stipulation is that you've got to be on the same circuit, the same circuit breaker, so like, or not the same circuit, but the same. It's all got to go back to the same electrical box. So if you have like a pool house that has a separate electrical box out there for it, you're not going to be able to use it. I've definitely run into that problem as well. So
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
right.
I'm curious, what different brands of, we were talking about Samsung, but when you are going to install something for someone, I guess they pick out their equipment before, or do they come to you for help? Or
No, I mean, I usually do some consultation with them and make recommendations for them and give them a few different options. So I usually recommend products as well. I would say most of the TVs that I sell are Samsung. Samsung and Panasonic are the two that I would go with, hands down, over the other brands right now, just in overall terms of reliability and performance over the years. I really loved Pioneer TVs when they made TVs, and if you ask me, those are still probably the best looking TVs that I've ever seen.
Wow.
But nowadays, Samsung and Panasonic, if you can get a Panasonic Professional, that's really nice, but you're gonna spend more money for that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have, like I said, the Samsung DLP, which I absolutely love. My bulb has not gone out yet. Knock on marble table here. and then I have this cheapo hands-free TV in my master, and it's in the color fades in and out, and so it's definitely worth spending a little bit of money and going with a name brand, in my opinion.
Right. And so on the Panasonic stuff, stick with their plasmas. I don't think that their LEDs are nearly as highly rated as their plasmas are. Panasonics probably have the very best picture quality of the plasmas. But then if you're going to go with an LED, I think the Samsungs are hard to beat because they have such a slim form factor, a thin little bezel. So they look good on your wall, in addition to have a nice vivid picture. But the Samsung plasmas are good too, and you can get some thin plasmas that look similar to an LED, but that also have a great, really great picture quality.
That's good to know. I was thinking that plasmas were on the way out. I didn't know they were still making them. That's good.
I personally love plasma and I have trouble watching an LED because I'm so accustomed to plasma. But most of the installations that we do nowadays are for LED LCDs.
Okay. And another question about the remotes. So
Sure.
I remember being at CES years ago, and what was that? The Harmony remote. And they had a Harmony remote on display, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. Universal remote. I have 20 remotes right now, putting everything in one. And now I look at a Harmony remote, and I'm like, wow, that looks like an archaic thing. And, but I'm kind of curious, what's the direction for universal remotes right now?
That's a great question because it's in a rapidly changing phase as well, right? And you're right, like this whole idea of these sort of clunky things with lots of buttons and screens is, I think, on the way out, but it hasn't been replaced yet, right? We're getting there with the devices like the Chromecast and some of the things we were talking about earlier, but so our smart devices right now are attempting to replace remote controls, but the way that they're attempting to replace remote controls are by mimicking the functionality in the user interface of a remote control.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And that's the wrong approach. What we want, what customers want, is not another screen full of buttons that they don't understand. That then they push a button on the screen and then something happens on the TV, and then they got to look at both the TV screen and the screen on their smart device in order to try to figure things out. That's not what people want. People want something simpler, something that more like the Chromecast, which is just going to send whatever content I have on my screen over to the TV. In an ideal world, it'll turn the TV on, it'll turn your AV receiver on, it'll switch everything to the correct input automatically without you having to think about anything, right? The real user interface that we want is no user interface at all, no remote control. We just want the TV to respond when we tell it to respond, and to show this particular event that I have on my device. So the mistake that people are making right now is to try to create an app that mimics the functionality of a remote control, and they haven't done it. And so they've got to get past that. I think they've got to get past the buttons of remote control and start thinking about the user interface on a different level, and think about how do we just get people to get to what they want as quickly as possible. And personally, I think the way that to do that is with things like the Chromecast, where or the Apple TV, where you're just beaming things from one to another, and where the TV is not the center of your content, the device itself is the center of your content, and the TV is just an external display for that content.
Well said. Very well said.
I really like the Apple TV remote app, where it's nothing but just a black screen. It does have the menu button at the bottom, but basically there's no buttons on it. You just, you're swiping your thumb left or right and tapping or whatever. You don't even have to look at it. Whereas my Samsung TV app that I have on my Nexus 4, it's the exact opposite. It's like you said, it's like a ton of buttons, and I'm having to look down at it and look up to make sure that it registered the tap when I hit it. And I think I like the way the Apple TV remote app works or whatever. Whereas the Apple TV remote, the little seamless stainless or whatever brushed aluminum thing they have, I absolutely hate that or whatever, because it's just so tiny. It's and they've simplified it to where you just have 3 buttons. But the thing about it is I never know what's going to do what. It literally took me about a month to figure out how to power the Apple TV off. I mean, it cuts off by itself, but if I want to cut it off, you have to go back all the way to the main menu to where you have all your selection, and then you have to hold down the play pause button to get it to power off or whatever, and it's so annoying. But I like the app where I can just tap it and and swipe, and there's nothing to think about. And
I didn't even know you could power it off.
Yeah, you can. You have to go back, but it's weird. You have to be on the main menu screen to where you have your Netflix and iTunes and music and all that. Then you hold down the play pause. If you're within, say, the Netflix app, and you hold down play pause, it doesn't power it off. I don't know. Maybe the Apple TV 3 does. I have the second generation, so I'm still stuck with the 720p version of the Apple TV. But yeah, that's like I said, it took me a month. I had to actually go on YouTube and watch some 14-year-old kids YouTube video about the Apple TV, how to turn it off or whatever.
I think mine, I just go into my settings and turn it off from within the settings.
Well, you can't power. You can put it to sleep. You can't
that's it.
Power it off. Yeah, that's the way I was doing it too.
Okay, that's what I'm doing now.
I know one of these buttons has to power it off.
That's insane. Well, what do you guys think about the Xbox interface? With the new one coming out, where you can just talk to it and tell it what you want to watch, and it's supposed to respond.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that yet. I guess I haven't really used it enough to form a solid opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of controlling things like TV or audio with gesture-based movement necessarily. I don't think. I feel like a lot of times when you're watching TV, now this is different for gaming, because I think that the camera with the gestures and stuff is neat for gaming, but when you're watching TV, it's sort of a passive lean back experience where you're trying to relax, and it just seems like I have to do a lot of work to move my arms around, and it seems like more work than pushing a button on a remote while I'm leaned back in my recliner. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't use the gestures for the Xbox, but I will talk to it and, Xbox pause, Xbox play,
right,
and do that. But I think with the new one coming out, it's supposed to be a lot more responsive with your voice, and I don't remember exactly.
I do think there's a lot of room for voice control of things, like you said there, especially as we see, phones like the Moto X coming out with that,
okay,
just
Google now.
Mm-hmm. or what if I could just, with the Moto, something like the Moto X sitting there, what if I could just say, okay, Chromecast, watch Twit live.
Yeah.
And it automatically turned on the TV behind me, turned on the audio system, put the TV on the right input, and I didn't even lift a finger. All I did was talk and tell the phone, like, and instead of saying "Okay, Google now," I just say "Okay, Chromecast," and it just automatically knows. Okay, he wants it beamed to the TV closest to him or something like that.
That needs to happen.
Well, I imagine they're probably working on it. Just a matter of getting it to actually work.
That's exciting. That would really, all this excites me, but that would really excite me.
Well, and I think that's the future of this stuff, is that these, like I said, is that ultimately we got to get rid of the cable boxes. We got to get rid of the DVD players. We got to get rid of all those cables and the crud hooked up, so that, Jennifer, you need to be able to have a tidy, living room, basically, with the cluster of cables behind your entertainment system. You know what I mean?
Yep.
People are getting really sick of all the stuff that they have to have in order to watch TV nowadays. And there's a huge opportunity for Google or Apple or whoever wants to come by and take all of this complication out of TV, provide a simple user interface that we already know and love, which I think will be our mobile devices, and make our TVs respond to these devices, as opposed to trying to get these devices to control the current interface of the TV.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
I think we're going to see that too. Apple has their event, I think it's September 10th, and then they'll have another one in October, which I know we've heard the rumors like Apple's going to come out with an Apple TV, and I think we're going to see it. And I know Jennifer has it here, monitor versus TV or whatever. But
right.
Apple's set to launch the Mac Pro, and if you go on the Apple.com website, you can read about it. The Mac Pro supports up to 3 4K monitors. Well, I don't even think there are any 4K monitors. Maybe there are, but I'm not aware of them if there are, or if they do have them, they're very expensive. And I think that right now would be the perfect time for Apple to say, hey, here's the new Mac Pro. We're shipping in December. And go ahead and, because they have the cinema displays, which those have been around for quite a few years, and they haven't really seen a refresh on them other than them changing the height of them. I think they used to be a little higher. And when they come out with the little thin iMac, I think they changed a little bit with the cinema display maybe a year ago, or maybe it was 2 years ago. But I think that Apple's ready to come out with a television. And I think they're going to do that because, like the Apple TV remote, they make everything, they almost don't put enough features in it. Like they put so few features, that's what infuriates a lot of people. They're mad where they're like, oh, why did Apple leave this out? And, oh, well, you have to get that on the version 2 of the thing or whatever. But I think that they will, with the television, I think they will, we'll have an interface that'll be very, user-friendly to where my mother could use it, where she could, plug it in and
right.
navigate to, whatever it is. If I, that's one thing, like with my mother, if I tell her, hey, fire up my TV, she's like, well, which remote do I need? And I'm like, well,
exactly.
You need those 2 remotes right there, and you have to hit cable box on this one and TV on the other one.
Right.
And it's just, but yeah, the interface, is definitely something that will need to be addressed. And, I really think Apple is going to do this within the next 2 months. I think that they will announce something when they officially announce those Mac Pros being available for like pre-order or whatever. I think that they will have some type of a television or display or whatever you want to refer to it as.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right about that, because I've been anxious to see what they're going to do, because I think that they will do something sort of like what we're talking about, and they will make you rethink what a TV is. Actually, I imagine if Apple came out with a TV that would almost have 0 inputs on the back of it, like they don't want you to connect anything to it. They just want it to work the way it's designed to work. Now, the only problem I'm going to end up having with an Apple TV is it's probably going to require that you have Apple everything else in order to even interact with it, right? So it probably will use some interaction between the iPhone or an iPad and the TV, and you probably need one of those 2 devices in order to even function it.
Yeah, and then all your content, like if you have Google Play movies, you won't be able to watch them because Apple will block anything Google from
or Amazon or Amazon Prime, which drives me insane. Yeah.
What is going on? Why does Amazon Prime have so much less proliferation among these different streaming services than everybody else? Do they just
don't
not
know.
want to be a part of Apple TV or, for instance, the Chromecast at this point in time?
I have no idea. All I know is the only thing that I can seem to access my Prime on is my Roku, right? I can't think of anything else that I can.
so-
and my TiVo. My TiVo and my Roku are the only two services that I have, and I have a ton of them. Well, maybe Xbox. My Xbox might.
I
Xbox
use-
too.
Chromecast.
Xbox.
I use the AirPlay mirroring from my MacBook to the Apple TV to do Amazon.
Wow.
That's what I do.
So you have a little bit of loss of.
But no, that works pretty good. That's
Does
worked
it?
pretty well for me. The just AirPlay and Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes I have to reboot the computer first, but no, that works pretty well. Yeah, so that's how I do that. I use AirPlay for almost everything nowadays, seemingly, and that's why I just want to see more apps support Chromecast so that I can watch things like HBO Go via Chromecast, because I actually like the implementation of Chromecast better. But it's just a matter of support, right?
Yeah.
I hope Google adds the Chromecast aspect to Chrome, the browser, kind of like where I could AirPlay. I can use like the Reflector app and mirror my iPhone onto my iMac, and then I can do like reviews of apps, because I do a lot of those like with my iPad or my iPhone, and I'll throw them up on YouTube. But on the Android side of things, I use AirDroid and it works, but it only works if I'm doing like a review of, say, like a documentation app or like a word editor, text editor app. If I try to like demo a game, the lag on it, and it's just unwatchable. Like, if I wanted to do, say, Temple Run, and show someone, hey, this is how you play Temple Run. You swipe up, and if I was trying to show the gameplay, it looks awful, and I can't do it. Like, I have a video up on YouTube for that has like 40,000 views on my Nexus 4, and I actually did the video with my iPad, and then I just compressed it and made it look like it was on the Android or whatever. So when you're watching it, I just kind of cropped the video in Final Cut and made it look like it was on my Nexus 4, but really it wasn't. Really, it was an iPad video.
Oh my gosh.
So you're trying to do like a screen capture of the Nexus while you're playing it, like a screen recording of the
like
Nexus.
AirPlay. Like, you can play a game on your iPhone, iPad, and send it to your TV. Well, they have an app on my Mac that does the same thing, to where I can AirPlay.
Air server. Right.
Air server. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great app.
And I wish Google would do that, though, with the Chromecast, to where I could send it. I could open up Chrome browser and send, mirror the screen to my desktop or whatever. I would love to see them.
I know there was a story where you could turn any Android device into a Chromecast receiver, but I haven't seen anything that allows you to turn like Chrome into a Chromecast receiver. Is what sort of you want, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly what I want. And I want it to work good, though. Like, I don't know how well it would work having to go through the browser. See, like when I do it to my iMac, I'm using an app, so it's just going, to that app. It's not actually going through the browser. That's like an additional loop that would have to go from my phone to the browser, then from the browser to my screen, instead of it just going from my phone to my screen. Like how I use Reflector or Air Server or whatever, how that works. And
the way that the Chromecast works, where it's actually, just sending into a link down from the cloud or whatever, it might actually be, kind of tough.
Yep.
For them to do that. But they do obviously have mirroring from the TV, from the computer to the TV, so I don't see why they couldn't do it the other way around also.
I bet it will be, someone will develop a hack or something. Of course, your phone being to be rooted, but maybe there'll be something that will work with it.
Yeah,
soon.
those rooted apps, they don't work. Like, what they do is they capture like a photo, like every 0.2 of a second or 0.3 of a second, and then it pieces them all together, and it looks like a video when you do it, but it has a lot of lag to it. And if you get like a lot of movement, say like in a game like Temple Run, where you're actually moving and the screen, you're swiping back and forth, you get like a blurred effect, or it doesn't really look that good. And I've tried them, so I've tried all of them. Trust me.
I know you have. I know. Well, gosh, I guess we are well over an hour, so we should probably wrap up, because we could talk about this stuff for hours. It's fun. I love this stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, totally. So, any last words about anything we've talked about, gentlemen?
brace yourselves because the revolution is only beginning.
Nice.
And it's coming quick, so be ready.
Excellent. I will be. I'm ready now. I am ready now.
Right.
Yeah, I am on device overload, so I'm ready, but I am going to brace myself and strap my shoelaces very tight because I'm going to try to run because I've spent so much money the last couple of years, on devices and hardware. And
this is the guy where he's on vacation. He's like, I missed my computer. I'm going to pick up a MacBook Air.
Oh man, I'm not that bad. Yeah. So
I
this
literally
is you,
did.
Christopher?
Yeah, I had a GoPro and I was on vacation and I had my old MacBook. It was like a 2010, like a white MacBook, and I couldn't open the video because it wouldn't display it. Like it wasn't powerful enough, the processor, to play the video. So I couldn't do anything with it. So I went to Best Buy and bought a MacBook Air from the Apple kiosk they had.
You needed it, clearly. I mean,
yeah.
I know.
And I couldn't wait like 4 days to get home.
He had to do his video editing right then and there, So yeah.
Well, I'm kind of like that too. You get your mind set on something, and you decide you're going to do it, and then you can't do it, and you're like, okay, well, what do I got to do to make this happen? And you do. Sometimes you spend way more than you should.
Yeah.
You know what? It's just I'm a video guy. Like I love, I really get into like video editing and video hardware and software. And I was on vacation and I'm sitting there like at the pool and I plugged in the GoPro. I had all these cool videos from my vacation. Literally was on vacation for almost 3 weeks, and I have about 2 weeks worth of vacation video, and I can't do anything with it. All I've done is offloaded them to like an external, and I'm like, man, this sucks. I told my daughter, I'm like, get out of the pool. We're going to, we're going to go to the mall or Best Buy or whatever. And,
That's great. I love it. Well, that's good. Well, now you have it, so.
Yeah, and I don't have to worry about it for 2 or 3 more years.
Exactly. Maybe a year. I'll give you a year.
Probably a year, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Until they come out with a Retina Air, and then you're like, I got to get that.
Oh, man, I don't even want to think about that because I know that I will want that when it does come out.
Well, all right, guys, this has been fun. Chris Porter, can we tell you? Now I'm talking over my words. Can you tell everyone where we can find you online?
Sure. A good place to find me is on Google+. I think the short URL is gplus.to/CWPorter, if you can remember that.
All right.
Also, betterviewing.com is the website for our company, Video Solutions. So you can find a little bit more about what we do there as well.
Excellent. And I will put your links in the show notes as well.
Great.
And Christopher Rizzo, where can we find you online?
iCrizzo.net. And also, I'm going to give you the video, if anyone wants to watch it, where I was talking about the viewing distances for the different displays. I will put that, and there was one other article. I'll send you the link to it if you want to add that to the show note. I can't remember what we were talking about, but it wasn't the viewing distance, something else. But anyway, I'll give you those 2 links.
Excellent.
And you can add them to the show notes.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. I appreciate that. And for us, you can find us at getnerdywithit.com. On Twitter, we're getnerdy_withit. We are also on Google Plus and at Facebook, facebook.com/getnerdywithit. And this is episode 15. I am out of it tonight. Today's the 15th. This is episode number 13. I'm really out of it tonight, you guys. I think we should wrap things up now. What do you say?
Sounds good.
All right.
Microphone drop.
All right. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to Get Nerdy With It. Join us each week as we interview nerds talking about their passions.
Oh, nerds.
And be sure to visit us at getnerdywithit.com.